What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome to today's video. We are going to be playing with Mob Beauty for the first time ever, and I am so excited about this because I've really been intrigued by this brand since it launched like 3 or 4 years ago at this point for a couple of different reasons. One, the owner is a former chemist with MAC Cosmetics, and that immediately perked up my ears. But two, you can create your own palette with this brand. They've got different sizes, complexion, eyes, creams, powders. You can really go in, mix and match, and make it your own. And I don't know about you, but I love an all-in-one palette. I just have a really hard time finding one where every single shade works for me and I can get use out of every single shade. So I finally decided to go onto the website and build my own palette, and this is absolutely beautiful. I love the way that it turned out. I do have a short up on my channel of me unboxing and assembling this palette for y'all, and that was so fun and satisfying to do. But I'm really excited to test out this palette, see how it performs, and give it a good run. I decided to go with all cream products with the exception of this one powder shadow right here because I really wanted to see how it was going to perform and interact with the cream shadows. But I will have as much information as I possibly can on the brand down below in the description box, as well as the shades that I chose and everything else that I use in today's video to complete my look. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos here on my channel, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But without further ado, let's get this party started. Alright, y'all, so I want to get started with complexion. I already have on foundation and concealer, but I haven't set my face with powder yet. So what I'm thinking is we'll go in with everything, set my face with a little bit of powder, and then reiterate over top with a little bit more product and see if it's going to disrupt everything underneath. So starting with bronzer, this is the shade that I chose right here. I believe it was the lightest one. I'll have it down below in the description box as well as pop it up on the screen for y'all. But I really love that sort of reddy undertone that it has. I think it's going to be really good for my fair skin. But I'm gonna go ahead and apply it with this brush right here from Smashbox. This is actually a foundation brush, but I just love how fluffy it is. It's really good for sort of buffing and blending cream bronzers into the skin and giving a nice seamless look. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pick up a little bit of that right here on my brush as I knock everything over in front of me, and we're just gonna start applying this on to the skin. Alright, so far that looks really nice. It's not lifting anything, it's not patching or grabbing. It seems to be nice and buildable, like it's distributing really nicely. It's not overly pigmented right on application, which I really love. As someone with fair skin, I want my products to be more on the buildable side when it comes to complexion because it can be really hard to kind of rein it back in once it gets away from you. And especially with bronzer, it can be really easy to overdo it, and then there's just no turning back from there. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep building and blending it into the skin, giving a little bit of color back to the complexion. Alright, so I am loving the way this bronzer looks on my skin. It is very soft and natural, and it was really easy to build up and blend out. But let's move on to blush. So for blush, I chose this really pretty kind of rosy shade right here. So we're going to go ahead and pick that up with a BK Beauty 109 brush. I'm just going to start to apply that on my cheeks the way that I normally would. So pick up a little bit, and we're just going to start by stippling and blending it out over here, building up some of that pigmentation. This is going on really nicely as well. So far, what I'm gathering is these are very buildable, but the texture of them is really nice. It's almost like a putty cream formula. It's not super emollient, but it's not super stiff either, but it's blending into the skin just seamlessly. I'm really impressed with how easy these are to use, and that's the whole point of a cream product, is it should be really easy to use. Alright, so the last thing that I have for complexion is going to be a cream highlighter, but I want to set my face with a little bit of powder first because if I'm going to go in with a highlighter, I'm going to go over a powdered face. It just is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with a little bit of my Judydoll Sheer Moist Powder and just kind of set everything down, and then we'll go in with a little bit more bronzer and blush, and then we'll throw on the highlighter. So I'm just going to throw a little bit on my forehead, right here on my nose. I'm doing a very light layer. I don't want to over powder my face, but my oldest son has senior pictures today and we're going to be outside. It's a little bit on the warmer side. It's like in the 80s today, and I don't want my makeup to melt off my face. I don't want to look like a hot mess at the end of the day, so I'm just going to set everything very lightly. I will do setting spray at the very end as well, and I'll let y'all know in a pin comment how everything wore, if I had any creasing on my eyes, any fading on the complexion, if anything kind of slipped and slide all over the face. All right, so now that everything is set, we're gonna go in with a little bit more of bronzer and blush. I don't feel like I necessarily need a little bit more, but I wanna see how it's gonna perform. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with a little bit more bronzer. So I'm gonna go in with the same brush that I used earlier, and I'm gonna mainly go right up here on my forehead where I feel like I really kind of muted it out a little bit more. I don't feel like I necessarily need any more blush, but we're probably gonna throw on just a little bit more anyway, especially on this cheek. I feel like I went a little lighter handed over there, or maybe I went heavier handed with the powder, but this is going on really nice. Of course, it's a little bit more pigmented going over top the powder than it was going over top of just the foundation on its own. That's kind of to be expected, but it's not lifting or disrupting the product underneath, so I really love that. In order for a cream or liquid product to be an absolute favorite, it has to perform over and under a powder, because I like to layer my products. Sometimes I like to just go in straight with my creams over a powdered face. Sometimes I don't powder. I just kind of mix it up all the time, and I want my products to work for me no matter what the situation is. All right, so I'm going in with a little bit more of that blush right over here on the high points of my cheek. I'm gonna do a little bit more over here, and then we're gonna try out this highlighter. All right, so this is the highlighter right here, and this is definitely a little bit more balmy than the bronzer and the blush is that I used. It has more of a translucent base to it, and it has like some very soft sparkles in it. So it's definitely going to give me more of that wet effect to the skin. It's not going to be like super blinding or beaming on the skin. It's just gonna look really pretty when the light hits it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with a Singe Beauty F01 brush. Nope, F07 brush. I'm sorry, I can't read apparently. But I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of that and do one side of the cheek, and then I'm gonna do the other side with my finger, which is normally how I do it, but I know some people like to do this with a brush. Look at that. That is so pretty. I just love how glossy it looks on the cheek. Let's see if it's gonna be sticky. Right now I can feel it just a little bit. Is it lifting the product? I feel like it lifted just a tiny bit, like right here, but it could be because I went in with a brush, so I'm not gonna fault it just yet. So let's pick it up with a little bit on my finger, and we're just gonna dab it right over here on this cheek. That's why I normally don't like to go in with a brush, because it can kind of grab the product underneath and move it around, especially if it's more on the balmy or liquidy side. If it's a little bit more creamy and like putty like the other products in here, I wouldn't have been so worried about it, but we're here to test everything out. See, now it's not lifting over here. That's going on really nicely. I think that looks beautiful. So we'll see if it's gonna dry down or if it's gonna stay sticky, but let's go ahead and move on to the eyes. So for the eyes, I essentially have two separate looks in this palette just because I couldn't decide between the purples and the greens. So I decided to go with both, and then I threw in some neutrals in the middle that I could mix and match with either of the looks. But today we're gonna play with the more purpley leaning tones, and then maybe I'll do a short or another video with these green leaning tones at the bottom, because those look insanely beautiful. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this shade right here. So let's do a swatch of this one on the back of my hand. This feels so creamy, and look at that pigmentation. Oh my gosh, I did not pick up a whole lot of this. So that leads me to believe that these are going to be very pigmented. A little bit's going to go a long way. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the BK Beauty 202 brush and just pick up a little bit of that and start by kind of blending it into my crease. Now I did not set my lids with my MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly like I normally do, because this is a cream shadow. I didn't want to do cream on top of cream, but I am going to set this with a little bit of translucent setting powder when I'm done, because it is a cream and I have very oily eyelids. I'm pretty sure that this is going to crease on me. I will try it out another day without setting it with powder and see how it's going to perform, but like I said, I have somewhere to be and I just don't want to risk it. But look how easy that is blending out and distributing it. Nice and pigmented, but still very soft at the same time. That's going on really nicely. I love a cream shadow, but I haven't had a lot of good luck with them just because they are usually either too thick in texture, they're too pigmented and not pigmented enough, or they kind of grab and patch and do funky things. But this is going on with like ease. Like, it's very easy to apply and blend out. I really like that shade too. So next I'm going to go into this shade right here, and I'm going to put that on the outer corner of my lid. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit on my finger and swatch it out for y'all really quick. So that is that shade right there. It's this really pretty kind of burgundy brown shade. It has a lot of warmth to it, and I thought it would pair really nicely with this. The decisions were really hard as to what shades to choose, and I did the best I could because I knew that they weren't going to look the same in person as they look online, and they do look a little bit different in person, but they are pretty true to color. I'll give them that. But I'm just going to go ahead and build it up right out here, and then I'm going to wipe off the excess on a little towel and start to kind of soften and blend my edge. Maybe I should have gone in with this shade first. I don't know. Maybe we'll reiterate that first shade just a little bit. I feel like this one's a little bit more pigmented than what I thought it was going to be, and it's kind of taking over my look a little bit. It's going on really nicely. It has nothing to do with the formula. It has to do with the fact that I feel like I picked up just a little bit too much. There's definitely a little bit of a learning curve, I would say, with these, especially if you're used to using a powder formula where you can really kind of go in heavy-handed and distribute it a little bit more. Words are really hard today, y'all. I'm telling you what, it has been quite the week. But I will say that there is a little bit of a learning curve. I'm just going to go ahead and build up a little bit more on the other eye. Yeah, I went in with a lot less product and I have way more control over it. So definitely less is more with these. Start small and build up. Do not pick up too much right off the bat. So I'm just taking a clean finger and just kind of swiping it right along the edges just to kind of soften it a little bit and blend it into my skin a little bit better. I just felt like it was looking a little too harsh out there, and that worked so easy. That was not hard to do at all, but I am really liking the blend that I have going on. But like I said, I need to play with these a little bit more and really get familiar with the formula. But let's go in with a little bit of this powder shade right here, this really deep brown shade, and kind of deepen up the outer corner just a little bit more and see how it's going to perform over top. I'm really curious to see if it's going to grab and kind of patch up on me, but that was very smooth and very silky, and again, very pigmented at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up just a little bit of that with, where's the brush that I want? Here you are. This is a Morphe M506 brush, so I'm just going to pick up a tiny bit of that and just tap it right here in my very outer corner. Oh yeah, that's definitely building up a little bit of depth. Okay. It's not grabbing or doing anything funky. I think this would make a really nice liner too, because I think it would grab on really nicely. Oh. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so what I think I want to do next is go in with this shade sort of all over my lid and bring it over to the inner corner, and then maybe we'll tap a little bit of this sort of over top and in the corner to give a little added sparkle to the look. I don't know, we'll see what happens when we get there, but we're going to go ahead and start with this shade up here, and this is the one that I actually dug my nail into when I was unboxing and putting these shades in the palette and kind of figuring out how they set in there. But look at how pretty that is. I just love that for a really fun pop of color. It would look really pretty just on the inner corner. Throw maybe a sparkle from somewhere else in your collection all over the lid. But we're going to go ahead and pick that up with a Morphe M709 brush. And like I said, I am just going to pop this all over my lid and kind of bring it over to my inner corner. And then once I have it down, I can start to kind of soften and blend right here, just so we don't have any harsh lines. Ooh, that's really pretty. I like that shade a lot. It's giving me a nice pop of brightness all over the lid. It's blending into those other shades really nicely. I'm not having any issues with anything start to like ball up and grab as I'm layering them on top of one another. All right, so I'm gonna go back in with just a little bit more of this shade right here and just kind of tap it right here on the outer portion where that dark shade and that really light shade come together, just so I can get a little bit more of a seamless blend, and then kind of go right along the edges of where my socket is, just to kind of blend and soften everything a little bit more. Alright, so I think I'm going to go ahead and skip the highlighting balm and just leave the eye look where it is. I'm kind of liking the matte moment that we have going on, but like I said, I do want to set this with a little bit of translucent setting powder just so I can make sure that everything is locked in place for the day. So I'm going to go in with this one from Ofra. This is the pressed powder for oil control. It's the most translucent one that I have in my collection. I didn't realize that finding a translucent setting powder in my collection was going to be so hard. I'm just going to pick that up with a really fluffy brush. This is a Morphe M504 brush. Tap it off really well, and I am just going to pat it over the eye. I'm not going to swipe or blend or swirl. I am literally pressing it just like you would whenever you're setting your face. Like I said, this should kind of lock everything in place and keep it from creasing on me. Alright y'all, so this is the completed eye look, and I really like the way that this turned out. It is very soft and I love the gradient that it has going on. Everything blended together perfectly. I didn't have any issues with patching, grabbing, skipping. Obviously, I'm not going to get any fallout with the cream shades, but even that powder shade that I went in with, I didn't get any sort of bunching up. It didn't grab or patch, and it didn't give me any fallout either. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can zoom out and chat about these products and close out this video. So in my lower waterline, I went with the Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal Liner in the shade Fig. I lined my lid with my ZC Liquid Liner and then finished everything off with my Armani Eyes to Kill mascara. Alright y'all, so this is the completed look, and overall I think it turned out really pretty. I do have a little bit of fixing to do where I put that balm highlighter, but it's not an impossible fix. I can definitely go in with a little bit more blush and just kind of fill it in a little bit, but overall I really enjoyed the formulas that I got to play with today. I loved the bronzer and the blush. I thought they were very soft, very buildable on my skin, very easy to work with and kind of blend out. They look very seamless on the skin. The balm highlighter I am not a big fan of because it did kind of patch and lift my product over here. So as someone who consistently powders their face, especially in the summer when it's hot and humid, it's not going to be a go-to product for me. If I'm not planning on setting my face with powder, I do think it's going to work beautifully, but more times than not I do set my face with powder. So not my absolute favorite. It's not bad, it just doesn't align with my makeup preferences, but the eyes I think turned out really nice. I like that soft gradient that they have going on. They are very pigmented, but I do find them to be very user friendly as well. A little bit goes a long way, kind of work small, build them up a little bit, but they were very easy to blend out. You saw I was able to tap out the edges with my finger and blend it out just a little bit more, so you definitely have a little bit of working time before everything dries down and locks into place. But I'm really excited to play with these products a little bit more, maybe dive into the brand a little bit more, pick up some other things, test those out for y'all, and let you know what I think. But overall, that is going to be my first impression thoughts. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Let me know if you've tried the brand before, if you love it, if you hate it, if it's on your radar, what you thought of the look. I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section, and as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.